And now, a message from our sponsor, Flamingo. Every multifamily marketer wants to know what the next big thing will be. At the apartment department, we think that resident retention is the next big thing, which is why we're excited to have Flamingo as our podcast sponsor. Flamingo, founded by Jude Chai, is an all-in-one resident retention platform used by some of the top-performing communities in the country. And here's a fun little secret. If you see a community with 300 plus online reviews and 65% plus retention, there's a good chance they're using Flamingo. From automated renewal management and resident events to amenity bookings and even an AI concierge, Flamingo brings everything together in one sleek app that residents actually use. Learn more at getflamingo.com. Hey everyone, and welcome to the Apartment Department, the podcast for multifamily marketers by multifamily marketers. I'm Ann Baum, and with me as always is Chris Johnson. We have an amazing guest today, Marge Enrique. She is the Senior Director of Marketing at West Home Property Management based out of Los Angeles. And Marge and I, and now Chris, have a really fun story because we first met at AIM at a dinner for a product, and we hit it off immediately because of our love of data. And we knew right when we met Marge that she had to be on the podcast because she is doing some really amazing things. You know, we talk a lot about data, we talk a lot about being different, but Marge is actually doing the things that a lot of us talk about. And so we're so excited to have her on to talk about her data mining journey and really how she's taken her company from a place where data was important, but maybe, you know, not visualized and kind of not managed properly to really a data powerhouse. So with that, Marge, hi, thank you for being with us.
Hi, Anne. Hi, Chris. Very nice to be here. Thank you so much for the invite.
Yeah, you're welcome. Like I said, you know, I knew immediately, I was like, Marge, we have to be friends forever. And we get to see each other soon, which I'm really excited about. So tell us a little bit, you know, you said your kind of love of data started at your last company, but you were really able to kind of get into a place where you had a data strategy at West Home Property. Will you just tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think so part of I think all of our journey is really we started in leasing and kind of understanding the prospect journey and all of that. And when I had moved shops from my previous company, one of the things that when I was brought in was to start the marketing department, and one of my goals was to make sure that data was one thing that one of the things that I wanted to spearhead. And there's no such thing as clean data, right? We get data sources from everywhere. We have, you know, there's different channels, different medium sources, some of them incognito mode, different ways of viewing us, and so on and so forth. And so how do you track all of that, right? How do you clean up that noise and the best way of looking at that? And so I kind of really went to this research, and I was a marketing manager at that time. And again, this was still at my previous shop. And I met with, at that time, the senior vice president of digital marketing for Bozzuto Group. And one of the things I asked them was, I was just like, asked him out to coffee, didn't know who he was. This was at AIM. And I just went up to him after one of the conference sessions. And I just said, hi, do you have time? I'm like, you know, starting out in my career in marketing and just wanted to know, like, everything data. What do you guys do? How do you guys track all this information? Right. And kind of just really understanding it. And he just said, he basically said that they were building out something on Tableau. And I came back and looked at Tableau, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so foreign to me. Didn't really understand it. So then from that point on, I started working with my representatives from Yardi and kind of really understanding my reports. So that's really where I started. So fast forward to coming to West Home. And I'm sorry if I'm talking too fast, like you can stop me if you have questions, but coming into West Home, I kind of knew because my foundations from that previous company had already been established. I knew what I needed to do, which is create my sources from the get-go, right? Clean up my sources in Yardi, establish those sources, make sure that my sources were established, and making sure that I had the responsibility to my vendors to be able to send out all my tracking, my UTM codes, basically building that in-house. And so I work with my basically my digital right hand. Shout out to Frankie Anderson if you're listening, because that was he it was kind of a headache for him. I was asking for a lot. I was like, no, we have to have our medium and our source codes and this one whole string, and we have to find a way to make it to shorten that tracking code and so on and so forth. We have to have vanity numbers in this one master document. And what I do is I basically take that and I deploy it every time I have an agreement with a vendor. I send that off to the vendors and say, here are the tracking information for you guys to drop into the ads, to drop into everything, right? So that's where I started. Then I started seeing the data populate, start the data populate. But that's your last touch data in Yardi, right? But we need to see the bigger picture. That's last touch. And we're only looking at things that are from, how do I say it? People that are coming in from your leads and your guest cards. But what about Google Analytics? How do you incorporate all the information that's coming from Google Analytics? How do you incorporate the folks that are your looky-loos? You're the people that are still clicking through your website and just kind of like looking like to see if you have a special, right? Or that are coming back to your website just because they want to see if your rates are lower or anything like that, right? To just kind of tell that story. So then went back to AIM, met with Daniel Polino at this time, senior VP of Bozzuto. And he was like, Marge, I feel like you need to speak to HyLy. HyLy is as a group that's really been like working on data mining. And so 2 years ago, I think I started this venture with HyLy, started with them, piloted with them. I also at the same time met with Erina Malarkey of Remarkably, went down this rabbit hole, met Erina, loved her to death. She and I just like you, Anne, talked through data all this whole entire time. We piloted both Remarkably and HyLy together. And I'm not kidding, it opened my world. And the way I see it is the first year was getting my systems in place and understanding the tools that I have in front of me. With HyLy, it was setting everything in motion. What that meant was putting the tracking onto the websites, changing the contact forms, changing the widgets. We even went as far as, creating an FAQ list for our websites specifically, for our properties specifically, and uploading our agentic AI with our FAQ so that the knowledge bank was already filled with information about our communities. And I think this is something that you and I had talked about at dinner.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to be proactive enough that I didn't want the agentic AI to be hallucinating. So that was part of that journey. So second year, which is where we're live now with reporting, the Remarkably tool I use because they've got a really like a very, very good cohort analysis. What that means is I'm able to see my leads from 3 months, 6 months ago, and when they've actually leased. If they're leasing within like a certain time frame. Why does that matter to us? Right? Because it's based on locality. We're based in LA. So what we're seeing is that our leads are looking to lease sooner, as opposed to maybe somebody that's out in, like the Midwest, maybe, where they have more time and they're shopping longer, right? So it's a little bit of a different mix. So that gives us as marketers a little bit more insights on kind of like who our target audience is. And so that's why the cohort analysis, it really gives me an idea. I'll give you an example. I had a call with one of our on-site teams, and they were like, oh, our prospects are not really looking to lease until 3 months from now. And this was back in February. And someone from our asset management team was like, oh my gosh, like what's going on? We're getting the traffic, but they're not leasing. And I said, what's the reason for not leasing? And they're like, oh, it's because they're not looking to lease until, until 3 months from now. So I said, okay, let's look at historicals. Let's just look at last month. Let's look at last week, right? Like all of our move-ins from last week, or all of our applications from last week. When did they tour? Through the cohort analysis, we saw that they started the tour a week and 2 weeks before. So we call that bluff. And this is data. This is amazing, right? And we show this to our on-site teams, and we're like, well, we believe you, right? But that narrative could have been by one person that became this whole entire narrative for the whole entire season now, as opposed to it. We're looking at the total pool, and that's what matters to us, is really looking at the total lease volume, right? And seeing, okay, from the volume of people that actually leased, when did those prospects come in? The other thing that I like about Remarkably is that we're able to set, there's an indicator, and we're able to actually set where we made changes to certain campaigns. Yep. And how that fluctuates and how does that affect the traffic. So it's a really cool tool, because you'll be able to see how that affected traffic volume later on. And it's an annotating tool, and you can do that in a portfolio level, and you can do that on a per property level. So that's something that I've been really utilizing on a weekly basis. HyLy, on the other hand, is my go-to for everything, because they integrate with apartments.com, Zillow, Google Analytics, Google Ads, organic social, like everything. They're my listening tool to everything. And so if you look at my HyLy dashboard, it tells you exactly the funnel and how the performance is of all of my campaigns, down to my Google Ads on a per campaign basis.
That's amazing.
Like it even gives it down. Like yesterday I was on a call with my account representative from HyLy, and one of the questions I asked him was, can we do this where I can compare my Google ad campaigns and compare it to my ILS performance? So it's basically my keyword campaigns, how does that perform in comparison to my ILS? And of course, right, like it's not really apples to apples, but I just want to see the total lead volume of how that impacts on a monthly basis. You can't look at it at a granular level. You can't look at it on a weekly basis, but at least on a month-to-month basis, you'll be able to see that comparison. And based on that, one of the things that now I'm working on is really building this formulaic tool with our asset management team to say, okay, these are the sources that are your top of funnel sources. Here are your sources that are your mid funnel sources. And here's your last touch sources. And really being able to establish your true calculation of like what value each of these channels give you, or like each of these categories give you. I'm going to take a break because I feel like that was like a lot.
She just covered like 4 pods in one. With all the data that we've been talking about and trying to clean up. Because I think one of the things that we've been trying to do, maybe without the great tools that you have, and HyLy is a good product, and I like the people over there, and it really is neat how they're pulling all this data together. But I think that's the piece that we struggle the most with, because not all of us have access to these tools right now. And how do we do it? How can we clean up the noise and really figure out what's working and what isn't? I think the magic of HyLy is they figured out a way to break down the barriers, which we've talked a lot about. And a lot of the other systems don't do that. And so it's great that you're getting the insight that you need to make these tools. I always say, I'm pulling levers all the time. It's one of the things I say at work. I'm pulling this lever, I'm pulling that lever. I don't like to pull 15 at once, but with the data that you're getting, you can be very specific on the lever you're going to pull for that week or those couple of weeks, which is really neat. And I'm glad that the industry is finally catching up and hearing us.
Want more from the apartment department? Find us on Substack for episodes and articles delivered straight to your inbox.
Yeah. I mean, so like one of the things with HyLy is they're agnostic, right? They don't have a horse in any of the paid search campaigns, if you will. So that's what I like about it. They integrate with almost anybody and anyone. They're very receptive to partnering with anybody, and they were even very receptive to partnering with Remarkably, because I was like, I just need one dashboard, and I really just want I was like, I need my cohort analysis, and I need the annotating tool to work, and so on and so forth. And they were even like, yeah, like, introduce us to the Remarkably team. Let's see how, we can work together. And they were just so open about, working together, and that was really nice. And now they've even integrated with Zillow and apartments.com, and those two are like one of the hardest ones, right? And so how does that work? Like, I've asked, like, like, how does that work? They actually are able to look at, how, like, when we look at the platforms of apartments.com or Zillow, and they tell us they've sent us 1,000 leads for the month, right? And we're like, did you really? Did you really? Because in our guest cards, it doesn't really show you guys sent us the 1,000. Exactly. It's like really 200, right? They're actually able to really validate that, because through cookies, right? And this is why I'm not mad at cookies. I do love my cookies. I call them my chocolate chip cookies, my oatmeal cookies. I Through cookies, they're able to really track, and so they're not HyLy doesn't change the true source of what Yardi is showing. Last touch data is still they will still give that attribution to your last touch data, which is great. What they will do is they have on their multi-touch attribution is they have what it's called influencing report. They list out all your categories of the different sources, if you will, and it tells you based on all the different conversion categories, whether it's leads, tours, applications, how much of your sources have influenced that particular category. So let's just say you, Anne, came through Zillow and then also went through GBP and then leased through the property website.
Yeah.
You eventually will just show up as so your guest card will show Zillow because you put in your guest card through Zillow, but you'll still get credit, or Google My Business, GBP will still get credit for you clicking on the website through that report. And property website will still show as where you made that application.
Mm-hmm.
We'll still get that credit. So it still shows that journey in that report. It doesn't change your data in Yardi. And that's what I like about the HyLy tool. So based on that, you can then really look at what's working and what's not working for you. And so people have come to me and really ask, like, hey, I recall, like, I remember 2 years ago, people were like, oh, is it really paid search? Like, is paid search really performing for you? Quite honestly, I'm seeing Zillow's working for us. And for my locality, Zillow 2 years ago, Zillow was really kind of out the door for us. We weren't seeing it moving for us. But when we brought in HyLy, all of a sudden, those numbers were changing because we started seeing them reflect in our different funnels. We started seeing them in the awareness stage, and then we started seeing them in the tour conversion stage. And so we were like, wait, those are important stages of the life cycle. So we started giving them more value.
Have you started changing then how you measure the value of those sources? Meaning, are you now measuring something other than like cost per lead, for example? Are you looking at like cost per impression data or any other metrics that like typically exist within a marketing funnel that maybe multifamily doesn't always value?
I love that you asked that question. So, we're not at that level yet. I'm kind of a sole marketer. We're a small shop, and so I'm at the stage where we're still kind of creating that funnel and that attribution. So the goal is to get there. So that's kind of something that I'm trying to establish. And then we can talk about this later, but my time has been split a little bit because of what's been happening in LA. And so my time has been split, and I haven't really been able to focus on digital marketing as much as I have in this year. But that's definitely something that I've been trying to work on, which is really kind of create the tools that we can now implement in terms of getting together with asset management and saying, okay, what calculations we are, and I don't know if I could say this, but we're partnering with Reba AI. Have you heard of them?
I've heard of Reba, so I'm imagining it's
It's the
similar,
same,
like
yeah.
the real estate business
Yes.
analytics. Is that what? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Cool.
And that was something that I actually brought up with them, and was that I wanted their marketing analytics was only based on the last touch analytics. And that was the same with all of the different companies that I've worked with. I always ask, like they always tell me like, oh, we've got this robust analytic tools on the marketing side. Then I'll ask them, okay, so what integrations do you have? And when they'll tell me, I'm like, no, you're only capturing last touch data.
Yeah.
So then I go back to HyLy, because I know that my funnels and HyLy are intact.
Yeah.
Because I ask the questions. And so my boss will be like, okay, Marge, like, here, talk to them. See if the marketing reports will work for you. And I'll ask them the questions. I'll ask them, who do you integrate with? What are your integrations? How are you calculating the metrics? How do you calculate true multi-touch attribution? And what type of measures do you put on the websites? And if they're able to answer all of that, then yes, I'll consider it. But if they're not able to answer it and they're only really basing it off of Yardi, then they're only really looking at last touch data.
Okay. I think that's really interesting that you bring that up. Chris and I and Sarah, our friend, have been talking recently about a marketer's place in the technology stack and how sometimes marketers maybe get left out of technology decisions. And so what you're saying is you've basically used data to put yourself in a place where you're, then looked, when technologies are being vetted, your company's coming to you and saying like, Marge, we need your help and we need your input. That's really cool. Sometimes that doesn't happen.
Well,
So
it goes back to our whole conversation of KPIs and being at the table. But I did have a question for you. So you get all this data, you actually get some clean data besides Zillow, because you already spoke about that. And I think everybody knows my affinity for Zillow.
yes, we know.
Yeah, it's great. It's like Google, What else have you found that surprised you? Because I'm sure you got data that you're like, oh, yeah, of course. But what data really stuck out that you weren't expecting to be performing as well? And we'll like to keep it positive. I don't want to talk about what isn't performing maybe, but maybe you could talk about some of the wins that you've had.
So the wins for me was Zillow for sure. Like that was a very pleasant surprise, because again, as I said, they were kind of really out the door. Apartment ratings was another one. Surprisingly, did not see that coming.
Like people using it?
Yes.
I just fell back. For those of you, we're not on Zoom. I still have my chair.
It was actually a channel that
anymore.
Yes, apartment ratings was actually a channel for some of our communities, like in Denver, that was populating, and they were ranking for us. So what I do is I look at HyLy and I look at our top 5 lead sources, and there's a tendency for our teams and obviously our stakeholders to really look at the granular on a weekly basis. And there I am, I'm like, hey guys, like just relax. Like we have to let's look at the data after a month, right? Let's start looking at it month over month, because that's when we really get to look at that. You're able to look and benchmark against like month over month. Like a week's worth of data doesn't really give you much, right? It just kind of gives you a trajectory, but there's no actionable items that you can do within a week. right? Like we just need to ride the tides and ride the storm if it's stormy, right? And if it's calm, just ride the calm. Like, but we need to look at action. Like we need to start creating actionable, like actionable items after a month's worth of data. And I will say that apartment ratings was one. What was surprising to me was the performance of paid. And I'll tell you why. Because I came in really trying to, I think when I started this whole, we spend a lot of money on paid search, right? And I think one of the things that I was trying to prove to myself was that paid search has a influence on the entire ecosystem for all of our different sources. It has an influence somehow. And I still, I don't get me wrong, I still think it does, right? I'm that shopper that when I see it's a sponsored listing, I will gloss over it and I will go down to the organic and I'll click on the organic. It's out of respect for my other marketers. I just do that because I'm a marketer. But I don't know if that's how people shop, right? That's just who I am as a marketer. However, with that said, I don't think that everybody shops like me. I don't think everybody has a marketing brain like I do, right? I think folks that see a sponsored listing will click on the first listing that they see. With that said, I don't think that the value that the performance of paid search has really benefited as much as the ILSs that I've seen the ILSs perform and social paid has performed, surprisingly. And I will say this and caveat it based on your, how do I say, your locality. You really have to look at it on your locality. We're based in LA and our properties are all over California, Texas, we're in Colorado. And based on all of those localities, my paid search has been not as high as I thought it was going to be in the journey, even in the awareness stage. So that was more surprising for me because I came in with the expectation that it was going to be much higher than even on the awareness stage than where it landed. But again, I still have a whole years of data to look at the end of 2025. So I could be proven wrong.
Yeah. No, because you said something that caught my attention with the social advertising because I've had some success with social. I think we all have. But in just thinking about this now, since my mindset is data, do you think sometimes I don't know about you, but my social spend is much less than any of the other spends that I have, right? And that's why it's kind of great because you can go test. But do you think that we get success because we're spending less, but we still get a bunch of impressions on it? And is that part of the success? What makes social so special in our industry? It's funny because one of my communities literally said, "Can you do some Facebook ads for us? Because every time we do it, we get leads and leases."
I agree. I think that social is so visual. This brings us back to, I think, we're visual creatures. And because we're able to show our communities, I'm a fan of either stills or videos and changing it up all the time. And because of that, we're getting more clicks and being able to advertise as opposed to doing a keyword phrase and so on and so forth, right? Like, I think social, we're able to capture or really visually show what the community looks like. And I think that's why. And to your point, Chris, I think it's also because we spend less we definitely spend less on the social side. And so we've actually changed that. I'm at the stage where we're starting to kind of move up a little bit, where we're starting to spend a little bit more on social and YouTube and TikTok. So our TikTok campaigns have generated very well for us for certain communities. We have one student housing community that has done very well on TikTok. Obviously, but that's because that's the target demographic.
Just real quick on that, because we talk about TikTok here too.
Yeah.
How do you keep those ads fresh?
We use our current content too. Our on-site teams create the content, and then we deliver that to our ad managers, and they use that as their content as well.
But they're able to do it like pretty consistently and figure out a trend and help you guys out to get that content. Because that's the biggest thing that, when we talked about TikTok, it's like you can only show your pool so many times, right? You have to keep it fresh.
So if you look at our TikTok ads, they're actually quite witty. Our teams have been, we have one marketing manager out, shout out to my 27 North team. We have Barry, who's our mascot. He's a bear. And so it'll be like shooting Barry on the bed. And we just, it's really fun. Like,
That's awesome.
yeah, like Barry growing
You
out of the
practice.
bear. Yeah, it's like fun for our target demographic, right? Like we changed the berry suit. We basically went from, and this was not my brainchild, like, right? This is all in the teams. This has nothing to do with marketing. The teams basically upgraded the berry suit. And so that became a TikTok ad. And so we went from Little Berry to Big Berry. And so that became a TikTok ad. And so all of that, it just made it really like the vibe of the community really translated into a TikTok ad. And then there was one where it was like Barry sitting down at a desk studying in one of our study sessions, and then Barry like sleeping in one of our dorm rooms with his feet hanging. It just made it fun, and I think that's where if you get your on-site teams to be really involved, because you can't, you're right. The pool, you can only show your pool so many times, right? Like you really have to get your teams to be a part of it. We had one video that went viral for one of our conventional community where it was the life of a property manager, and it was our property manager, and she was just like doing her receipts, and it was just funny. It just like super, she was like doing her receipts, and then our maintenance guy was like blowing like the leaves on the grass and things of that nature. It was just like funny, and it was like meet your team, and it was just like they were like ha ha ha, kind of like, and it was a TikTok, and it brings back the humanity and kind of like, oh, these guys are people too, kind of like that. And so they made it fun. They create their own fun. So I think that's the content that we land on TikTok. It's because we know the audience that lands on TikTok. On Instagram and Meta, that's not what we post. What we post on Meta and Facebook are your standard pool shots, renderings, and because we also have a lot of assets that are in lease up, and that still sticks, right? It really depends on who your audience is. Facebook, a little bit older, right? More astute, I think. And so they know what they want. Those are the people and the shoppers that really know exactly what they're looking for. They want a specific community that they want to live in. They know exactly what their price range is. And so when they see it, they will click on it and they'll put in their information. TikTok, it's more of is that a fun community or not? So that's kind of like, I think we've not mastered, but we've kind of locked that in.
That's amazing. And did you notice you said vibe? Vibe of the community.
Made me so happy.
I'm having fun with that one, but I'm trying to create a vibe too. Just now with TikToks.
Oh my gosh. I can't, Marge. This is like, I just want to like fly out to LA and hang out with you and listen to you talk all the time because I feel like we're learning
really
so much.
Super enlightening.
Yeah.
And we're speaking our language. And I think you said a lot without us really having to probe. You gave the information that you've provided to the listeners is you're very well spoken about it. And you're working so hard to clean up this data, and you're using it for actionable items. But it's neat that you can talk about an ad that's working or a campaign that works for you, and you can double dip on it or figure out what you want to copy on it. That's really neat.
Yeah, you're making data fun and inspiring. And
thank you. I love it, you guys. Like, I mean, I get on calls and I'm just like, show me my keywords. And it's like so exciting. It's like people are like, how are you so excited about this? And I'm just like, show me my engagement rate. I'll tell you another thing too, and then hopefully the listeners can find interest in this with my SEO team. And I've been geeking out on this, and I don't know if this is going to be interesting for you guys. With my SEO team, one of my challenges is to start ranking us on maps. How do you do that? Right? Because I said, we'll never, ever fight the war against apartments.com, Zillow, and all the big ILSs ranking organically, right? But we can at least be searchable via maps. Because as I can only base it on how my search pattern is. If I'm looking for a restaurant, if I'm looking for, retail or whatever, the first thing I look at is how I appear on maps. And when you look at your reports on SEO, I started noticing my map ranking. And my map ranking was always double digits. It was always 55, 66. And I was just like, guys, what's going on here? 55, 66, I'm paying for SEO. So I have a challenge this quarter for my SEO team. And I was like, all 40 of my assets, I need the numbers to move at least by 5 every month. I don't know how you guys are going to do that, but we're going to do it together. You tell me what we need to do, but we're going to do it. So we have a spreadsheet now, and that's part of that is also the next step is how do we also rank in AI, right? So that's the next step where we're heading. So last month, we went from one of our properties, we went from like number 66, we're ranking 46 now.
Wow.
One of them where we were at 26, we're 10, ranking 10. And then one of the other extra layers I added on was, I'm like, I don't care where we're ranking if there's no search. So the other column that I had added on there is what's the search volume for these keywords?
Yeah.
On the map side, right? If there's no volume for search, I don't care if we're 66. But if there's higher search volume for that month, let's try to rank higher. Whatever it needs, whatever it takes, right? If we need to add more Q&As, if we need to add, this or that or whatever. And this is why we put all the effort in our FAQs. This is why we put efforts in our Q&As and adding Google posts and making sure that the information in our Google listings are important. It's because we want to rank. Yeah. So hopefully that helps with the listeners and your communities, because that's very important. That's how we rank.
Well, you say data and Anne's eyes and head get big. You say SEO, my eyes and head get big, because it's one of my passion projects, and I've been working very hard on SEO lately, on figuring out how to use our reputation system with all of the data that we're collecting of what our residents are saying about us to get that on our website and get that into our ads. And so just like you, I'm doing my best. I'm also, just as a fun tip, learned this very recently. I don't know why it took me so long, but I am doing my Q&As on Google and just asking the question and then answering it right away. And so, great. I'm having a lot of fun doing it.
It works.
It does work. We're doing video FAQs too, which I've talked about, and we've done some other fun stuff, but the Q&As is really a good one.
Yeah, definitely. Because people go there and, if they can answer it, if they can get their questions answered immediately through those Q&As, right? It really filters a phone call from the on-site teams. And what I like too is, I think it's through Google Analytics. It actually also tells you the response time of your on-site teams. And so that's also one thing that I look at.
Interesting. For the questions?
For questions, correct. Yeah. Because it's important for us to know it. Or we use reputation.com. Sorry, shameless plug.
Yeah.
Gosh, just like shameless plug this whole entire podcast.
We'll try and remember to tag all the people that you shameless plugged.
Yeah.
Can we give a shout out to Opinion? Because I use Opinion and they're great.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I love the Opinion folks. Oh my gosh, I love them. Kathy Cook, love you.
All the people, I'm picturing heart emojis like floating around us, everything, or like,
yes, exactly.
All the things.
Yeah.
Also, I'm picturing Chris asking questions and answering them. Response time, 1 second.
That's right. Actually, Google like got mad at me because I was doing it too fast, and so like took me a lot longer than it should have because Google was like, this isn't right. It's too fast. So
Do you guys have issues verifying some of your properties on Google? Oh my goodness.
I did when I was doing a lot of lease ups. I have a lot of stabilized now, so it's not an issue at all. But
I have one stabilized. I just can't get it verified. I
don't. It's awful. And then you have
It's
to ask the
awful.
site team, like, hey, can you do a
Yes.
video? And you have to have them log into the Google account and like
half the
such
time
a
it doesn't work,
disaster.
or they tell you like you didn't have the right angle or whatever.
Yes.
What
Yeah.
I think is so interesting about that, I'm glad you brought it up, just from like, you know, a marketer who cares. Google is so important to us. They know that they're the lifeblood. It's so weird that they don't have a better system for
Right.
multifamily. It's
Right.
like they are the lifeblood because of the maps. And I talk about this a lot, and I know we're not going to do our usual question on this one because we're going to do something else, but until AI can figure out the map piece of it, I am not convinced that Google's going away, because Google gives you that picture. To me, it's like two separate systems. Sorry, Ann. I'm back full blow on Google, but
So tired.
you need
Can't
the
keep
map.
up.
You need the map. You need the map. You need the ratings. You need all of that stuff that the Google business profile provides to you. I mean, even like the products, you know, with your floor plans and
Yeah.
pricing. They made it a lot easier for us. So just to the original point, I don't know why they make it so hard for us to just say that we're the owner, you know?
Yeah. So I
Apple
have to
Maps is
fly
worse,
out.
by the way. Apple is worse.
Apple is
That's
worse.
terrible. Bing too.
Apple
I
is
mean,
terrible.
yeah, no.
One of my communities out in Dublin, California, we tried 3 times with the on-site teams. We even gave them we showed them exactly what to do. I flew out there, did it myself, and this is already me understanding what Google wants.
Yeah.
I even showed them that we had the keys to our trash room and our engineering room, opened the door, everything, and it was still declined. To this day, we've already owned the community for 8 months, and we still don't have it verified. Google, if you're listening to us, oh my gosh. Yes.
At Google, like someone, please.
At Google, please. Yes.
Please help us.
Yeah, please help us. Just make it easier.
I promise our teams don't want to look for postcards or do videos.
Yes.
I spent 45 minutes on the phone with Bing, talking about Bing, for one listing to get it verified. 45 minutes on the phone. I was giving them everything. I said, how do I have this number? How do I know this if I'm not the owner? And they finally had to send something through Knock, our CRM, for me to go pick it up and like prove to them that I'm like the owner of this thing. It was crazy. And it's just like, guys, make it easy.
Yeah,
And
please
everybody,
make it easy. Yeah.
for God's sakes, Yelp.
Oh gosh.
Claim our listing without having to pay for it, please.
Exactly.
It's not right.
Speaking of Bing, you guys, are you guys doing anything on Bing for paid search?
I'm not here, but I have in the past, because there's a little bit of a pickup. There had been a little bit of a pickup.
Don't sleep on it. We have seen a uptick. Like at some of our communities, even better performance than Google.
Do you think that that's because of the AI that it's connected to? Is that AI related, or?
I don't think it was because this was kind of like earlier in the year. And yes, there was already AI in the beginning of the year. I think this was because of the folks that are just done with Google. I think the folks that are it's more of and this has nothing to do with data. There was no research behind this. This is just me, Marge, like trying to figure out why. I think it's just the demographic of who's using Bing is what it came down to. I noticed that the Bing users were more of your techies and not your folks that it was more so the ones that didn't want to get cookied and that didn't want to get tracked as much. And so it was more of like the engineers and so on and so forth. And so we saw a lot of conversions through Bing and quality conversions through Bing. So that was very surprising for us.
It's a nice little tidbit.
Yeah, that's really amazing. because
Yeah.
it's always been, except for like you're saying certain demographics, it's always kind of been an afterthought. And they even tried to make it easy where you could basically like import a campaign straight from Google and basically run it. And they tried to make it as like close to possible as Google so people could not have to learn a second ad system and all the things and still um so okay, I don't want to tear ourselves away from this conversation, but we're
Yeah,
almost out
this
of
is great.
time. Yeah, I know. I'm like, don't want to, but I would be remiss if you didn't talk about what you were telling us before our call, and basically kind of something really cool that your company is doing, both from a humanitarian standpoint, but also from like a government, like red tape standpoint. And so,
Yeah.
can you talk a little bit about the project that your company is doing?
Sure.
Okay.
So CityView, who is our parent company, because we are based in Los Angeles, we are obviously with the LA, the wildfires that happened in Los Angeles in January, a big part of LA Palisades and Altadena got wiped out with the wildfires. Over 9,000 or something homes got burnt down. And as a response to that, uh, our company, CityView, partnered with a development company called Montage, and they formed this company called Genesis, who I'm helping on the marketing side. Basically, we came up with Genesis builders came up with pre-approved plans, and not necessarily like having red tape. The LA County has been actually actively working with us. LA County did not really have a track for having pre-approved home plans. And what that meant was folks like who wanted to rebuild their homes. Typically, that takes 3 years to build a home from ground up. What with having pre-approved plans in place, that actually bypasses a lot of the permitting process because the plans have already been pre-approved, which usually takes 4 months to 6 months, depending on the queues of the county, right? And so going with the pre-permitting track, and a lot of our plans, actually we have the highest volume of plans now in LA County website. And we advocated to the LA County to have um kind of this division uh to be offered to the Altadena residents because there were so many homes that got burnt down. So now we have 6 residences that were able to 6 floor plans with 4 architectural styles, a total of 24 homes that we can build within 12 months. And so that really fast tracks it. And what's nice about it too is that we've actually, both companies, CityView and Montage, we're using our partnerships with, because we're builders, right? That's by nature, we're builders and we're developers, and by nature, we've used our partnerships to really give the discounts back to the residents and to the homeowners. And so we are guaranteeing the fixed price for the homes. And they're not going to be charged with any change orders and of that nature. And so it's really giving back to the community. So that's why my time has been kind of split, because I've been helping with the marketing efforts. And to take it back to data, I've been learning this new CRM called HubSpot.
HubSpot's amazing.
HubSpot is amazing. My goodness, if we could just bring that into multifamily, my goodness. When we were building Genesis, they were talking about like, oh, we need to, have a repository for all the clients. And I was like, wait. I'm like, can I volunteer for that? And they were like, oh, what do you have in mind? They were like, not Yardi. And I'm like, HubSpot. And they were like, what? And they were like, what's HubSpot? And I'm like, just trust me on this. Just trust me on this. Because I listen to the guys. I love podcasts, as you both know, because I'm big fans of yours. Again, buttering you guys up. I also listen to the HubSpot podcast, and I'm a big fan of their CRM. And so we brought them over for Genesis, and it's amazing the metrics that we're able to capture within HubSpot is amazing. So it kind of comes full circle to data.
I love it. I
Great
feel like
work.
you'll have to tell us, yes, all about HubSpot one day. And Marge, we cannot thank you enough. I mean, everything you talked about today was just gold. And we appreciate you being willing to come on the show and talk to us and just, yeah, I don't know, like I'm stumbling over my words. I have so many thoughts.
This is like another one where we got to get a part 2.
Yeah, I know, because like
Data
I don't want it
consent.
to end. I'm being weird. Like I'm just gonna keep talking so it doesn't end. But unfortunately, it does have to end. So, Marge, thank you so much. Thank you to our producer Carlos. Thank you to Chris, of course. Thank you to our sponsor Flamingo. And until next time, this has been the Apartment Department.